Hey there, I'm Lee Rowley, and this is Lee After Dark. Why? Because there's more to being a business leader than just business. Each week, one brave entrepreneur ejects the elevator pitch and tells us about, well, whatever they want to talk about. Today, I have with me Jody Aberdeen. Jody, how are you today?
I'm doing greatly. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Now, Jody, the rules are simple. For the
Mhm.
next 20 minutes, we can discuss anything you want except your business.
Gotcha.
If
Okay.
you're successful, you'll have 5 minutes afterward to pitch all you want. But each time you
Okay.
slip up and talk about your business during the interview, you'll lose 1 minute of pitch time at the end. I don't really do that. I just,
Okay.
it just makes it all dramatic and stuff. So you ready to
Yeah.
go?
Yep, I'm all set.
All right. Well, I'm going to start the timer here. And what are we getting into for the next 20 minutes?
Well, what we're getting into is we're just going to talk about how my recent trip to Paris kind of messed me up. And it's funny, Murphy's
Oh,
Law says that as soon as I start talking, my dog, who is having a kind of a day, decides to start barking. So
oh,
if that happens, I might just hit mute real quick. But
okay.
in any case, yep, sorry about that.
No
Right.
worries.
So I had the opportunity to go just about, it's a little over a month ago. And this was one of those trips where you see the opportunity to head to a place that you've wanted to go to pretty much since you were a kid. One of your bucket list items, you
Okay.
decide to go. And so I didn't know what to expect. Well, that's a lie. I mean, it's Paris. You kind of know what to expect, but I decided to forego what everyone else was telling me to go see and just kind of see what I saw. Now,
Ah,
yeah. So, short version is since I've come back, I have been in a fairly deep, it seems innocuous, but a fairly deep personal and professional crisis because of the lifestyle I experienced there. Some of the conversations that I had there that really made me think, well, what the heck am I doing all this for? Right. And so I don't know. Have you ever been to Paris? You ever had a place like that for yourself? Or
I've only spent a day in. Well, never spent like a complete day in Paris, which is obviously not nearly enough to have any sort of meaningful experiences for most of us. I do have places that are like that for me.
right?
Paris was very different from what I expected. But yeah, so as far as that goes, so yeah, I've got some seen the Eiffel Tower and did the big bus tour and all
Mhm.
that stuff. So
Yeah,
carry on.
yeah, for sure. No, and part of why I ask is since I've come back,
Okay,
I've told I can't shut up about it, and so this is actually a great outlet to talk about it. So
fantastic.
yeah, so when I got there, so I flew in an overnight flight, Air France, landed 5 in the morning. Had an Airbnb in the 18th arrondissement. This is up in Montmartre, where the Sacre Coeur Cathedral is on top of the hill, and it was as a bohemian type of experience as you can get in 2019. So my Airbnb was in a rooftop walk up, right? And all those buildings that you see, I mean, where you go in, it's like this pretty door that you walk through, very ornate, and maybe the building's like 600 years old. You don't know, right? You don't know, and you end up walking up to the top, and you're looking out the window every day at the sun rising over the rooftops of Paris, and
Mm.
my Airbnb host, she's a dance instructor, right? And so it's her place, but she's hardly there. It was one of those things. We had great late night conversations coming back because that's when the both of us would overlap, and all in French,
Oh
right?
my, okay.
I'm bilingual, so I think the language really helped. But I remember when I got there on that first morning, I finally got to offload my bags. I was like, "Well, I'm here. I barely slept on the plane." Right? It's like,
Sure,
well,
yeah.
I could either go and take a nap, or you're in Paris, Jody. You should go and see Paris. So,
Screw
uh,
sleep.
yeah, basically, I could sleep I could sleep at some other point, right? So, being in the 18th is a really great place to start because then you can climb, the Sacre Coeur Hill, and you can get the lookout, right, of like most of the city. And geez, when I saw that, that was the only sunny day that was forecast. That was the other part of it. It's like, I don't want to sleep on the sunny day. And I ended up wandering. And it's the wandering. I'm not going to go blow by blow my trip experiences, but I want to kind of talk more about the thought processes that kind of changed me, because to be honest, I can't pinpoint a single moment where my perspective shifted while I
Okay.
was there. But there's a few little ones.
Mm.
And not all of one of them was touristy, right? It's like, oh geez, they got me with this, right? But a few of the other ones were just random spots where I was just standing. I was just like, you know what? This is how this is a good way to live,
Hmm.
right? And I'm not the first person to go to Paris, right? So and find that. But
Sure.
now here's where I'm finding a challenge right now, is that I do, in my conversations, I've connected this back to work, and I don't want to do that. So
Okay. Well,
that's
we can do that a little bit later. So that's
yeah,
cool.
I don't want.
Yeah.
I also don't want to lose lose the blurb.
Yeah.
Because
Demerits.
if this was a real game show, I'd be freaking out. Like, oh my
Oh
god,
well, yeah, but I'm just an old blowhard, so don't mind me.
oh, it's all good.
Yeah.
So here's the thought process that came through my head. When you hustle all the time, whether it's work, we do that even with play. We do that taking the kids to and from school, right? And in Paris, the thing about it is that the real Paris is somewhere in between all of those expectations you had and the realities of a living, working city
Hmm.
that's right in front of your face while you're there, right? And I
Right.
think if you fall too much for one, you don't see the other. And so if you get into that in between, you kind of think, well, as most travelers, I would like to think most good travelers do, is how can I bring some of this back home with me? So
Nice.
that's where there was like a series of different occurrences. So like, for example, spending I ended up somewhere in the left bank, found a place for lunch, like the classic terrace, right? And so I'm sitting on the terrace, and it's raining like crazy, right? And I started going all Owen Wilson from Midnight in Paris. It's just like, this city's so gorgeous in the rain, it's great. I was like, he's not kidding, right? And but it was I guess you fall into kind of a trance state when you're wandering around, when you're sitting there, people watching. You've got really great caffeine and cognac and all these other things flowing through your veins at like 11:45 in the morning, and you think,
Hmm.
you know,
Mm-mm.
what's this all about? One thing I observed, I think, cumulatively, with little moments like that. Another one was up at Montmartre, where the sun was setting. Everybody's gathering around for that one little spot where you can see the Eiffel Tower before it starts glittering on the hour. So everyone's waiting for that. And so there are tourists. It's there, right? I mean, you can't avoid it.
Sure.
And then even though you are one, you kind of get that impulse like, I don't want to be like them, right? At least that's how I get.
Sure.
I get Anthony Bourdain's a big influence on me. So, just kind of having that, going to see a place that's not just by convention, right? I was like, I don't want to be just like a tourist, but the advantage of being with the tourists is that you kind of pick up on that same vibe, right? That's
Hmm.
the romance of the place that you
Sure.
kind of bring. So anyway, cumulatively, I thought, one thing I've observed about these Parisians, they work like the majority of their time. They work hard when they're working, right? But when they're off the clock, they are off. That's it. No more. Put it away. And let's go, and not just go put it away and go home and like get into your track pants and binge watch it Netflix for 8 hours, right, with like a six pack.
Sure.
But let's go and meet some friends, find a cozy place, eat some good food, drink and talk. And so I was looking for the word for that made the most sense to me, and I was like, there's something I'm observing here, and it's got a name, and I wasn't sure, right? It's like an older name. I was like, there's a lifestyle to this.
Okay.
And coming back, I don't know how much time I've got, but coming back, it was like, I kind of looked up, like, what do you call it when you devote your life to the finer things, to like good food, good wine, good conversation. And the definition I saw was epicurean.
Epicurean. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yep.
so I still know, I don't claim to be knowledgeable about it, but from what I have seen, that's very close to the type of life that I personally would like to live. But
Very
I
cool.
come, yeah, but I'm back in. So, and I think the thing that cemented it as a crisis was the day that I left. So,
Mm,
it's one of those things where you have, when you have, like with my Airbnb host, Anne Chloe, she had, we had some really deep conversations, and I think they were sporadic, and they're usually like maybe 20 minutes, a half hour, just taking your time, right? And so
okay.
our last conversation was the night before I had to go, and I had to get up super early to catch the train back to the airport. And I was like, this, she kind of, and it was like, I wish I'd gotten to know you sooner in the trip, where we could have had this conversation before that. So that I don't have to get up and sort of just say, well, it was nice knowing you, right?
Hmm.
And I think having one connection with somebody who's there. I mean, I met with, I went to a meetup which they do have for travelers. So you can go meet local Parisians and have a couple of drinks and practice your French in a safe environment, right? And
Hmm.
um,
Nice.
yeah, I had another great conversation with a video game designer from Toronto by way of Stockholm. It's a long story, and
Ah,
we talked a lot about European socialism and entrepreneurship and the differences between lifestyles there and what we do back in Canada, right back home.
okay.
And so those were on my mind. And saying goodbye to Paris, it didn't hit me what I was leaving behind until I'm on the train heading to Charles de Gaulle. And the thing is, there's a particular point in the train trip where you could actually see the Montmartre Hill, you can see Sacré-Cœur, right? And then little tower in the hill, receding into the distance. So it's like like 9 o'clock or something in the morning.
Hmm.
I'm on this train. I got my bags with me. It's filled with people, presumably Parisians, a couple of travelers, right? And I'm doing that thing, where you kind of just look up, you kind of look straight ahead, but you're moving your eyes up because tears are welling up and you want them to go
Mm-hmm.
back inside your skull.
Yeah, I
Just
got it.
having that, I'm just like, I am not crying. Why am I crying? I am not crying on the train leaving Paris, but I am, and I was.
Okay.
So coming back now, it's been trying to figure out how do you build that epicurean lifestyle where it's not always about some grand ideology, some super important, significant purpose in life, right? That's where usually I've been operating in for a while, just in my life for a long time now. What is my purpose? What is my destiny? But we're living in an era now where the food scene has never been better. If you have the advantages and the privileges to enjoy it, you get injured, you can get taken care of for the most part, right? There's people around you who care more than you probably think, and they probably miss you more than you think. And so, spending time with them becomes important, and that's the type of lifestyle, right? And also, sort of combating the hustle culture and saying, well, let's hustle for when we need to, but let's not look at it as a lifestyle. Let's
Sure.
look at hustle as a function that sometimes you need and sometimes you don't.
Hmm. Yeah,
And yeah, so that's what I'm trying to integrate back into this very hustle-driven, busybody, somewhat isolated North American existence.
yeah, yeah. There's a ton of layers to that.
Yeah.
I mean, it just picking those apart. It's when you talk about the hustle and then putting everything away. In North America, there's this idea of busyness as a badge of honor, where you're
Mm-hmm.
almost
Absolutely.
expected, if you're in a networking, but hey, Rob, how you been? Oh, busier than a 1-8 paper hanger. It's you're almost expected to talk about how daggone busy you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed that too in Europe, that's just not the case. It's not that you don't work. It's just that you don't make a big friggin' deal about it and try to showcase it all the time. It's like, look at
Yeah.
me, I'm important, how busy I am.
Yeah. The thing that gets me is my parents are retired. And I asked them, do you ever get bored? And it's like, no, we're too busy to get bored. It's like, but you're retired. Wasn't the point, one of the points is that you could get bored, that you could just not have to do that. And if it was just them, that's one thing. But I hear that type of thing all the time, right? The time in your life in North America where you're supposed to be chilling, right, at the most. No, you're filling it up with stuff to do, right?
And we'll do it by the most inane means possible. I mean, how many times have you realized that you've just lost 15 minutes of your life thumbing through your Facebook feed,
Oh yeah.
and you've benefited absolutely nothing? If nothing else, you probably feel worse because everybody else is showing how great their lives is, which is just the highlight reel.
Hmm.
But you're doing things like that. We fill our time with television, as you say, the
Hmm.
Netflix binging.
Yeah.
And that all comes back to me, and just my opinion, to that fear of being still, of
Mm-hmm.
of,
Absolutely.
of coming face to face with just you and yourself.
Yeah. And that stillness, that quiet, like when they say meditate, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
meditate, but for the most part, it doesn't have to be that deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the problem. It could be that you want to be still, a perfect place to be still. Kind of tying this into the theme of this episode is maybe it is just sitting and people watching over a cup of coffee or two,
That's right.
and it's pretty. Excuse me. It's pretty refreshing to just sip coffee for its own sake and not because you need an energy boost to do things,
Right.
right?
Yeah. What does that coffee you've been drinking, what does that even taste like? you know
Yeah, it's like we seem to do that a lot. There's a difference. Like I was thinking, people are going to think I'm being self-indulgent by talking about this and advocating for a type of epicurean lifestyle. Oh, well, that's self-indulgent. Doesn't serve anybody. But there's a difference between sitting and enjoying wine and like a glass of wine, for example, and having a conversation about politics, right, or something, right, big issues, and basically shotgunning cans of beer just so you can get the buzz and impress your friends, and then just really talking a bunch of nonsense. If there's an enjoyment of those things, right? We
right.
indulge in everything, and it's
Everything.
we North Americans. We think the French do it. No, we're the indulgers. They seem to be enjoying things.
Mhm. Well,
Actually,
and enjoyment's a key word here.
yeah,
Is that we consume but we don't enjoy, we don't appreciate.
yeah.
Um, and I'm as guilty as that as anybody. I'm doing 4 podcast episodes a day, plus copywriting work, plus all the other things I do, and I got to clean the kitchen at some point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and just to, so I have to physically actually remind myself to stop. Think about the conversation that you're having right now. Like,
Yeah.
and the highly improbable chance that you and I came together to have this conversation today.
Mhm.
It's that, to me, is more magnificent than any goal that anybody could set for themselves, because that's just living in the exact reality that is now.
Mhm.
To go all
Yeah.
Eastern thought on you, I tend to
No, 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 and
go off on
it's
that.
well, Eastern thought. No, it's I get it. It's also no, I'm with you on that because it's how you spend your time.
Hmm.
I think it all comes down to time, and I see this in in work, in relationships, right? All those conversations that we have about it is time is a mentor of mine had told me that time is our only non-renewable resource. There's no possible way to get that back. And we have numerous time traps, right? Like I downloaded a silly game that I was like, hey, there's a great, I haven't played this game in a while on my phone. Why did I delete it? And now I'm remembering why, because
Hmm.
it's just eating up so much of my time. I'm actually
Yeah.
going to delete it after this call because I just can't, right? And that's when you're out. The other thing too, I think, is that we're very outcome oriented here in North America, in the sense that, so for example, right, if you can't just enjoy a glass of wine for its own sake, right? You got to
Hmm.
get a buzz from it,
Yep.
or you have to. I think that some of that pretense or that pretentiousness that we get, like say with wine tasters, right? It's not I got to drink the wine in such a way that I can then make all these flavor notes. I don't know if not everybody's an expert,
Hmm.
but a lot of people like to talk as if they are, and so they want to. Oh, I got to drink this to impress my friends,
Yep.
right? That's an outcome. It's
Yeah.
an outcome no matter what.
It is, and it's all pervasive. Who was it? I was listening to today was talking about the same thing with college education. Is like, if your purpose of going to college is to get a degree, why? Because you're not. If your purpose is to get a degree, then you're not benefiting from the experience. You're just there to get the goodie.
Yeah.
I
It's
talked to a guy earlier, the same thing with, he and I were both black belts in different disciplines.
okay.
And we both did the same thing. We both started at 14 and probably ended at about 18 or 19. And that's because the whole goal was to get the black belt. And I missed a lot of the experience because I was so focused on the goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like, and then you wonder where that time went, and it creates something in your head, doesn't it? Right? Like
Absolutely.
it just blurs a lot of what you went through.
Mhm.
Like to get a
Absolutely.
black belt, I'd imagine you're there 2-3 times a week for how many, for how
Yep.
long, right?
4 years.
It takes 4 years. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I could see that, and it's the same thing with travel, just generally. I think, right? If you're that outcome, the limit to outcome thinking is
Yeah.
that, well, what's the point of taking a trip? You're just going to end up right back where you started, right?
I love that. That's a quote. That's going in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like, then you may as well not leave,
Right.
right? And then
I
you never
love it.
go, and then everything becomes sort of fatalistic, right, or nihilistic, or whatever. And so just being there and being present for the experience really, really matters, and I think it's something we struggle with. And I think being in Paris for 1 week and having that exposure to a lifestyle like that,
Hmm.
for somebody with my predispositions to thinking those ways and really struggling to, well, maybe struggle is the wrong word, but working towards or grappling with what it is I'm here to do and what's the best way to live my life, right? That was a transformative experience for me. And so ripple effects are going to keep going. It's been a month since I got home, and yeah, we're gonna see where this takes me.
Absolutely. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for sharing the story with me. And I have to think that someone listening to this is going to be inspired to make a little shift in their own life, because you never know where that's going to come from.
Oh yeah.
And so that's really cool. That's why I just absolutely love hearing these real stories. And thank you for sharing your experience.
Yeah,
So,
no worries. And as a
um,
as a postscript, somebody in my life did. They booked a
yeah,
trip when they heard my story,
that's
so
awesome.
they're going in like 2 weeks.
I
So it's
love it.
really
I
great.
love it. That's great. So, what you have successfully completed the Lee After Dark 20-minute challenge with,
All right.
no,
Yeah.
without even breaking a sweat. You just had it all along. So, I'm a man of my word. So, you've got up to 5 minutes if you like to tell us about your business, how people can get in contact with you, if you've got an offer to share, whatever you want. The floor is yours.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you. So I am an
Absolutely.
author. I'm an author, a ghostwriter, and a storyteller. So I work with professionals, mostly in the personal growth industry, but really anything you want, as long as you've got a really amazing story to tell, right? Either it's where you want to do some writing, but you don't have the time, or you don't have the necessary skill set to do it yourself. What I do then is, whether it's books, blogs, short copy, right? I basically take your authentic voice and transmit it to the page so well that when your audiences read it, they hear you and not me. And
Nice.
so that's basically my goal. I've been doing this for 5 years. This is my own kind of bohemian experience, I suppose, because you're either with the type of work that I do, I'm no longer cheap. Let's put it that way. But
Hmm. Yeah.
what it does mean, the reality of it is, I'm either rolling around like King Midas in like ridiculous, just wealth, or I'm basically borrowing to pay bills, right? So there's a lot of ups and downs. I'm told from other ghostwriters who've been at this longer, right? Part of the challenge for me is I don't get a lot of referral business because my clients are confidential, and we sign agreements to
Mm.
keep it that way.
Okay.
However, one thing that I found a way around that, though, and that's to be a co-author. So it's like, I'll go in with the book with you at a lower rate. I'm still doing 100% of the work, but my name just goes on it, and I get to basically point to it and say, "Yo."
That's
So
really cool. Okay.
yeah, yeah, and so the just kind of relating it back, right? I mean, to all of this, right? It's like, my big deal is authenticity. I've struggled with it. I grapple with it. I hate and love that it's now a marketing strategy.
Hmm.
And now you can't go like you can't see 5 Facebook ads go past your feed with somebody saying the word authentic. But what authentic means to me is that I reproduce your voice authentically, but also the quality of your idea. You really got to be genuine and heartfelt in what you're doing, right?
Hmm.
You really got to believe it. You can't be cynical. There's people who approach me to write cynical books. Yeah, self-help is a great niche and it's going to make me a lot of money, so I'm just going to do that, even though I don't believe half the stuff that I'm saying. It's like, well, sorry, you can go find somebody.
Yeah. There's plenty of people out there for
Yeah,
clients like that. Definitely, I've
yeah.
had a few of them, and we're
They're
not doing
not
that
they're
anymore.
no, it's not good. And there's also legacy. It's not I'm not just helping you leave a legacy in a book, right? Books are my signature. I keep talking about books. I can't do the other stuff. I do enjoy the other stuff, but books are fantastic. You get to roll deeply into something. So anyway, authenticity is part of it, and part of this trip again I'm trying to connect it all together. So
Absolutely.
having to not talk about this for like 20 minutes and integrate work was very challenging. So that's
Well,
why.
you did it, and you did a beautiful job. I would say that the what you put into your work as far as authenticity. I mean, that comes from being a genuine person, and you want them to believe in their product. If they don't believe in it, there's no way that you can represent it with a clean slate when you go to bed at night, right?
Of course, yeah.
So absolutely. So where can people find more out about you and get in touch with you?
All right, perfect. Well, you can check out my website. It's www.jodyaberdeen.com. So
Okay.
that's JODY, A, B as in Bravo, ER, D as in Delta, EEN.com. You could also find me on Instagram. Same thing. Like, I'm consistent with my branding. It's just
Okay.
my Jody Aberdeen everywhere.
Keep it
And
simple.
you can find a bit of my writing on Medium. I've got a couple of books on my own, but if you Google me, you'll most likely find me. So.
Cool. And we'll put as many links as we can in the show notes too, so that people can get in
Wonderful.
touch
Thank
with you. Cool. Any last words?
No, just to say thanks for having me, and to everybody listening. Honestly, find a way to live, to really live the best that you can in everything that you do.
Awesome. It's a fascinating experience. Again, thank you for sharing it with us. So look, we are out of time. If you found Lee After Dark more entertaining and relevant than most of the Drac out there, give our hosts over at IPMNation.com some love, or subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, iTunes, wherever the heck else we put this show. This is Lee Rowley with my good friend Jody Aberdeen. Until next time, be present and be well.